Aliya Kanani,
Hello.
good to be with you.
Good to be here, yo.
Now listen, I'm a professional, so I do my research.
Oh, good.
One thing I couldn't find out. Are you born in Canada?
Aha, aha.
You're a mystery.
I'm a mystery.
You were a mystery. Customs
Was
wanna
I
know,
even
move in.
born? Do you know what I mean?
True.
Yes, I was born in Canada.
You're born in Canada?
Yeah, I was
cool.
born in
So you're a
Canada.
Canadian-born actress and comedian.
Yes, that's right.
When do you make the move to Australia?
I'm not moved here. I just come out here to tour. Did you ask me when did I make the move?
Yeah, when did you make the move?
Yeah, well, I mean, I came out here the first time in 2018.
Right.
So I feel like aside from the pandemic, which obviously put a halt in the things, I was coming out here quite often. So I almost live part-time here in a sense. But the first time was 2018. I came out here. A buddy of mine, Joe White, who I'd met in Canada when he was touring, was telling me about how great the comedy scene is out here, how many festivals there are, how many opportunities there are. And he said, if you're interested in coming out, you can open for my show and check it out. And I'm never one to say no to adventures, so I decided to do it. Yeah.
Great.
Bought myself a one-way ticket, came out and stayed for about a couple months.
Yeah, no, awesome. I thought you were living here.
No, I go back and forth so much that it kind of does give that impression to people.
Yeah.
But I kind of live in between places a lot. I've always been like that, though. I've always been a bit of a gypsy vagabond.
Yeah,
so
you're a
it
true
suits
nomadic
me.
artist.
Yeah.
Tell me about, so you do comedy, you're an award-nominated actress. Tell me about what came first. I mean, obviously there's always been this desire to perform, but what started first for you? Was it the comedy or was it the acting?
The comedy started first, and there wasn't actually always a desire to perform. I fell into this by accident. I was very happily working as a flight attendant in the Friendly Skies and making people laugh up there. And then I found out one day that I could get paid to make people laugh and not have to pour the drinks. So I decided to give it a go. But it really was accidental. It really was accidental that I fell into this. I signed up for a class for comedy sketch writing. From a Groupon that I got, but I
Where
also
all great
signed
journeys
up for
start.
but I also signed up for like Zumba classes and hot yoga, and I'm not teaching either of those, right? So, or doing either of them professionally. I don't know. Can you do yoga professionally? Only if you instruct.
That's a great question, and I'm going to get our fact checkers on that straight afterwards. If there's a professional yoga athlete, I want to see them.
Right?
I want to see them.
Or Zumba, better yet. Can you imagine? I make I make my living just Zumbaing around.
I would love to see the divorcee that's a professional Zumba artist.
know?
But you take this thing on the Groupon, you get some encouragement, and then when does the acting come into play? Because you starred in a 2021 movie, Scarborough. It was a Canadian film. It did incredibly well. You were nominated for a Best Actress award. I looked up the trailer. I mean, it looked like a very poignant, deep sort of drama.
Yes, yeah.
I guess kind of like an antithesis to stand-up comedy in some
Totally.
senses. How did that opportunity present itself?
So actually, that opportunity was a little nuts. At this time, I did have an agent. That just another comedian friend of mine was like, "You should be acting. Here's an agent recommendation." I met her, and so she started me on commercial auditions as you would normally. So at this point, I was getting the odd audition for TV film, but it wasn't very big stuff, and it wasn't stuff that I was particularly interested in. So my focus remained on comedy, and oftentimes she'd send me an audition, and I'd be out of the country and unable to do it. And so it wasn't really the focus of mine, but I got an email through my website from the directors of Scarborough because they had been searching for somebody for this role and they couldn't quite find the right person. And so they had a big brainstorm and they were like, who would be able to carry the energy that we're looking for? We need somebody who's going to be able to have confidence, who's going to be able to hold herself in a certain amount of confidence in the very dramatic and intense situations in that film, but then also bring a certain amount of like levity and silliness to the character, and somebody who can command a room. And somebody who can improvise. And so then they started looking at all the skill sets that they needed. And then they were like, maybe we should look at comedians. So they started Googling comedians that fit the part. And then they found my website and sent me an email with the audition. And I was in Australia at the time. And I got the audition and I was like, wow, this looks like a really great role. And I really like the film and it's well written and all of this, which normally the stuff that I was getting wasn't. So I really tried for it this time. And I got it. So
wow,
that
talk
was
about an
really
opportunity coming directly to
like,
you. It's amazing.
Yeah, in my inbox, like, hello.
Yeah, meant to be.
Yeah.
How do you find comparing acting as a craft to comedy? I mean, I do both myself, and I have my opinions on it. I'm curious to get yours on how you find a career in comedy versus pursuing a career in acting.
In terms of like the creative or in terms of the industry?
Let's start with industry.
Industry, yeah. Okay, so in terms of industry, it is, I mean, stand-up, I think that for me, especially because I have been doing it longer and because I do it, you know, with the touring and coming to the festivals, I do find there's like so much camaraderie in it, you know, and there's so much in terms of like really being able to go to your peers and say, hey, where should I go? What should I do? What's a good way for me to, you know, what's a good venue for me to take my show? Where in acting, I do find that it's a little bit more of a lone sport for me because I didn't go to theater school. I don't have a lot of actor friends, so I'm not surrounded in that sense. And I also feel like in comedy, I do feel a sense of independence where I can write and get on stage, perform, direct, and produce, and actually make it happen in front of my eyes. Whereas as an actor, you know, I have this ability to act, but I need somebody to give me the opportunity, somebody to send me an audition, somebody to see me in that role, somebody to, you know, and so I feel like there's a lot of waiting around for permission. I often actually encourage some of the actors that I have met along the way who ask me about comedy and stuff. I'm like, honestly, like if you're interested in knowing more about touring and stuff, because writing a one-person show doesn't have to be comedic, but it does give you a sense of, you know, independence on your creativity and an outlet immediately because you can create and make something without asking for the industry's permission, right? So
I agree completely. There's much more autonomy.
Autonomy, thank you. Yeah, that was the word.
Yeah, in comedy, there's a lot more autonomy, and I'm gonna need you to stop telling actors to get into comedy. If you could do that, I'm gonna put a cease and desist notice in immediately.
Yeah,
for
okay,
that.
fair enough. You're not wrong.
But that's great. I'm glad that the two can coexist.
Yeah.
And what was one of your early goals with comedy when you started out, and what do your goals look like now? I mean, you're touring so much, you're doing all these things. What is a goal for you now?
You know, honestly, I feel like this is a question that people ask me all the time. And I sometimes do fear that without having like the most clear direction, that we don't know necessarily, you know, there are folks that will say that if you don't have a clear goal, then you will never get to, you know, advance yourself as in your career. But I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. I think that this kind of go with the flow way that I've been doing things has actually allowed me to be open to a lot of stuff that I wouldn't otherwise have visited and done. Right now, I'm in the middle of doing a bunch of stuff. I'm touring a new show. I saw my old show. I'm about to get my papers for the US, so I'm planning a tour out there once I do have that, because that one has a little bit more traction, so I will be able to get some work through it. But I'm also writing a TV show. I'm also going to be taking courses as soon as this festival is over to learn how to write a film, just like the basic structure of it. You know, I'm also acting and auditioning. You know, it's open season again now, so we're going to be getting a bunch of auditions for pilot season. And of course, I'm not going to turn down a role if it's in a show that I like, in a character that I like. But for me, the real guiding light for me is, am I enjoying it? Is it making me feel creatively fulfilled? Because I'm not ready to give that up. I don't want to do a part in a show or a film that I don't feel any attachment to just because of a paycheck, and give up my time that I could be using to creatively invest in my comedy, in my writing, in my other stuff. Because I've made a choice to do this career much later in life. I gave up the steady paycheck to be able to pursue my creativity full force. So that is my guide, is as long as I'm having a good time, feeling creatively fulfilled, whatever comes my way, I'm so open to it. Whether it's acting, comedy, writing, I enjoy it all. Yeah.
I think that's great, and I agree completely, because planning, especially, I mean, in acting, it's an impossible task to plan, especially with that lack of autonomy that you alluded to earlier. How do you plan? I'm going to be in a Marvel movie in 5 years.
Do you know what I mean?
Not up to
right?
you.
Like,
unfortunately.
You could try to plan, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
of course. So no, I agree. The flow, and just let the guide of what you love and what you're passionate about guide you there. But listen, I think we've only got a short amount of time, but I feel like we've already got a good flavour of who you are.
Cool.
Is there any advice that you would go back and give your 16-year-old self?
My 16-year-old self? Oh, Yeah, I think I would probably have told myself get into the creative field sooner, because I did really love that, but it just was never something that was encouraged in my household and my culture, and not because anybody didn't want me to be happy and fulfilled. It's just something that wasn't aligned with what they thought would be a path of happiness or stability, right? And I wish that I sometimes was like, I wish that I had started sooner. I wish that I had been able to, do more of this stuff earlier on. But I mean, that said, I do think everything leads to everything. I worked as a flight attendant for 10 years, and when I started comedy, people would be like, "Oh my God, her stage presence, she's a natural." And I'm like, "No, I stood in front of passengers every day for 10 years, sometimes disgruntled passengers on a PA, having to make announcements in English and French and tell them that we're going to be further delayed." You know what I mean? That stage presence, that natural ability to stand in front of a crowd of people. A lot easier when you got to make them laugh versus tell them they're going to be 2 hours later than that they originally expected because the airline didn't check the airplane was working properly.
The ultimate training ground for all stand-ups is Virgin Airways. Well, listen, Aliya Kanani, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for doing this.
That's a pleasure, yeah.
People can find your show at Fringe World at the moment, doing Fringe shows.
Yeah, I've got a couple shows on. I've got my show that I brought back from last year. It's called All That She Wants. It's like Wild Women in Comedy. And I'm co-hosting it with Jill Cordner, who's hilarious. And we're going to have just an amazing lineup of women every night, different people coming through where we're sharing like life hacks, sexy secrets, and jokes, obviously. And then I'm doing a brand new hour, my new show, which is called Aliya Kanani is a Work in Progress. And it's all about just trying to find balance between like yoga and wine,
Beautiful.
So it'll be good.
The duality of life. Well, thank you
Yes.
so much. Aliya Kanani, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.